What is going up, Badger fans? Washington State fans here as well. Listen, big game. We're going live. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get people on the show. We're going to talk about the community. Is this the second toughest game the Badgers will play this year? We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every day. Big game tomorrow. Let's talk about it. First, today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, so let's just get into this. And I want to do a little bit of housekeeping first. Every Friday, we're going to try to do this if we can. It's going to be a live show. We're going to put the link out there. The link is not just the link to join the chat. You can certainly join the chat as well, like normal on our live shows. But with the link, you're able to get on if you want, join the show, come on camera, right, and just chop it up for a minute or two and give your game prediction. We're going to try to do this every Friday. I'm trying to think of a good name for it, like Freeform Friday, but that feels so used. Like Badger Fandom Friday? I don't know. I'm workshopping it. In the community, if you have a better name, let me know. Believe with Rajiv came from the community. Someone said, Believe with Rajiv, and that kind of took off. So if you have a good name for our live shows every Friday, again, I want to make a commitment to do this every Friday, and I really want to make it about just getting as many people from the community on as possible. So let's do that. Loons the dog, I see you in the queue. Listen, if you're going, I have one requirement. If you're going to jump on the show, you need to have your camera on before I bring you in, because I don't know y'all. I want to trust y'all, but I can't bring someone in. They flip the camera on, and you're at like some type of crazy rave or worse, right? So that's the only requirement. If you're going to jump on, if you're in the queue, you've got to turn your camera on, because otherwise I don't know what you're doing or where you're at. But with that, one thing I do want to say before I get started, first of all, this is really cool that we're going to just continue putting more shows and content out there. I've gotten so much kind of backlash. Not backlash is the wrong word, but people really disagree with my take that Washington State could beat the Badgers. And I want to lead up the show with this and then turn it over. Second Dance, I see you in the queue. I'm going to bring you on in a second. People have gotten a little tired of me talking about Cam Ward. Like, they're like, dude, you think Cam Ward's Cam Newton? I don't think Cam Ward is Cam Newton. Okay, I don't. But he's pretty good. But even throw all of that out, right? Here's the pillars that this game is going to be built on. It's a road game against a Power 5 team that was pretty solid last year, early in the season against a real quarterback. No matter what you feel about Cam Ward, he's a real quarterback. Those are 5 pretty difficult things when you line them up together, right? I would tend to believe a lot of teams lose in that situation. It's a 6-point Vegas spread for a reason. This is going to be a tough game. I'd be very surprised if it's not. Second Dance, let's bring you in on the show, man. Really do appreciate it. How are you doing, my friend? You are on the show, Second. Oh, and he's gone. This is an auspicious start. Second Dance, jump back in if you can. All right, let's just keep talking here. We'll get some more comments from people listening. The first thing I want to say is, again, thank you for this. There's Second Dance. Let's try this one more time.
Hey,
what's up?
So I got a quick question for you, man. I know, man, I just started listening to you, man, and my dad graduated from Wisconsin in 1966, and my uncle did as well. Of course, back then, we really only had like the running back, Don Amici, correct? I mean, he was kind of the all-star back in the day for us. But I got a quick question, man.
Yeah.
Listen, this means a lot to me if you can answer this. Okay. My wife graduated from UNLV, so we know, both you and I, we don't have to be fans. I am, because my wife graduated there. Okay. I know UNLV is not going to get a Nick Saban type coach. I understand that. Okay. They're not going to pay the money to do that. We've watched this in the Big Ten with Indiana and schools like even Nebraska once in a while. And then you look at Northwestern, they're not going to get these big name coaches to come there. So you can't expect them to win. So my question is this, okay, how much of a big name coach do you think Luke Fickell is? And do you think he will be able to do a better job than Paul Christ? Or do you think that he would be able to do a better job than what we think Jim Leonard could do?
So it is a big name coach, right? We did a lot of this in the offseason as well. But yeah, he's a home run coach. And by the way, I appreciate you calling in. Home run coach. I do think he can do a better job than Paul Christ. Leonard, it's tough to tell. Like Leonard in 5 years, who knows? Leonard this year, I think Luke Fickell's the better coach, right? Because he has more experience, kind of that he's built up that cachet. But Leonard, 5 years down the road, could have been a home run coach, and we'll just never know.
Okay, so let me ask you this. We all know the 85 Bears defense, right?
Sure.
I don't think Jim McMahon was really all that. I'm sorry. And now I'm a Packers fan, but I'm not saying that to downgrade him. Okay. But I don't think that Jim McMahon was all that as a quarterback. I think that was mostly the 85 Bears defense. Okay. That defense was so phenomenal and so fantastic that Trent Dilfer probably could have won a Super Bowl with that defense. In fact, I'm sorry, Trent Dilfer did win a Super Bowl. So
yeah, with a good defense for sure.
Yeah, so that being said, we have since Barry Alvarez got there, would you agree that for two things? Would you agree that we have never not had a top 5 defense since Barry Alvarez was there?
Top 5 in the Big Ten? There's been a couple defenses. So Bielema had a couple years where the defenses weren't great.
Okay.
The Russell Wilson year, for example, that defense wasn't very good. So we've had a couple down years. I would say overall, Wisconsin's defense for the last 25 years has been stout, and occasionally exceptional.
Okay. So, and then the other thing that's very exceptional, obviously, is the run game. I mean, it started back in the day, Ron Dane breaking records and breaking people's hearts and breaking defenses' hearts. Ron Dane started that ball rolling down, and then we just kind of went from there. And that's why we got Ches Malusi, and that's why we got Braylon Allen and things of that nature. So I think it would have been hard for Jim Leonard to get an offense-minded team because he's a defensive coordinator kind of guy. How many guys have you seen in the NFL that were defensive coordinators, win Super Bowls, go to another team as a head coach and fail? So I don't know. Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
The defensive side of it's really interesting. He was going to go after, like there were names floated that Jim Leonard was going to go after. I think he had committed to revamping and modernizing Wisconsin's offense, but again, we'll never know for sure, right? Because that's a different universe that we're never going to get to see. We're never going to see Jim Leonard kind of have that opportunity at Wisconsin. Anyway, I want to shift this a little bit to the Washington State game tomorrow. Are you watching the game tomorrow? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Of course. Well, yeah, I have some really big thoughts. Okay. The first game that we just played against Buffalo, again, I reiterate this. Okay. It was against Buffalo. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. I'll get into the game tomorrow, but I'm going to ask you a really quick question. Do you know what team in NCAA Division I football was a 34-point underdog? They gave the other team 34 points, and they lost the game outright. There's only one team to ever do that. If you can name the opposing team or the team that actually did that, and if you can name the opposing team's quarterback because his brother played in the NFL.
This is it USC Stanford?
No. Well, you got the U part right. I'll explain it to you. UNLV was playing Howard. Cam Newton's brother was the quarterback for Howard. UNLV was giving Howard 34 points and lost the game outright. Howard just beat them, like took their lunch money, clubbed them over the head, and so my point is this: we're playing Washington tomorrow. We played Buffalo, and we didn't play the way that I thought we should play. Okay, we're supposed to be the air raid offense. Well, how come our two running backs are doing the same thing that they would have done with Paul Christ? They're running the ball and they're trying to shove it down the other team's throats. I just don't know where the air raid game is. I just don't know where that is. And you can't throw picks in your first week and expect somebody to look at you and go, "Hey, I like that quarterback."
No, Tanner
The
Mordecai.
NFL. Yep.
Yeah, Mordecai had a bit of a rough game. What's your score prediction for tomorrow? Because I got Tyler and Logan in the queue too, so I want to jump to them. But what is your score
I'm
prediction?
I'm gonna let you jump to them, but I'm gonna tell you what I think for a score prediction is. I think the game. I thought at first I told my wife it would go into overtime, but I don't think it'll do that. I think it will come down to the wire. I think that we have the better running backs, and I think we're going to win probably 27 to maybe 18 or something like that. I think we will only because of our running backs. I mean, you try to stop Ches Malusi, and then Braylon Allen's running for 190 yards. You try to stop Braylon Allen, Ches Malusi's running for 100 and something yards. What they both did last week, I understand it was Buffalo. But I think that Luke Fickell's going to make a statement tomorrow.
I would love that. I think it's a tough game. I think the running game is going to be key. I agree with you there. Thank you, my friend, for tuning in. I appreciate it. On Wisconsin. Okay. We'll talk after the game.
On Wisconsin.
Tyler, what's going on, my man? I recognize the name. What's
going
on,
hey, Ryan. Friend? How's it going? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Thanks for dialing in, man.
Yeah. I got one, maybe two questions for you.
Please.
Like the new offense with Fickell and everything. However, maybe it's just because I'm used to watching the Badgers so much in the old style, but it kind of drives me nuts that the quarterback's not under center at least for one play, especially down on the 1 yard line when you got Braylon Allen and Ches Malusi against Buffalo, and instead they're in the shotgun and you do the handoff at the hip thing. Kind of drives me nuts. I wish we'd go old school and just pound it in and use the big boys up front. I think it kind of takes away, one of the Wisconsin or Iowa classic Big Ten plays is that naked bootleg to hit the tight end out in the flat for 5 or 10 yards. And with Longo being like the quarterback whisperer and everything, and you look at the NFL and there's quarterbacks under center, I just wonder how he's looked at that way when his quarterbacks never take a snap under center is kind of something I've been wondering. So appreciate your input.
No, so I think it's super interesting, right? Because I've always thought sometimes coaches get a little too ingrained in the way they do things. Like, you still have two really good blocking tight ends. I don't see why when you get that close, you can't go under center. It's weird to me. Like, it feels like you're going – if you go under center and go power eye with Braylon and put maybe Tucker where the fullback used to be, nobody's stopping that, right? It feels like more could go wrong, especially with a backup center snapping the ball. Like, it seems kind of iffy to me. I agree with you there. It's weird to me. But some of it too is we got to just get used to it, right? And it's just off right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's tough when you're on the 1 and then you're standing at the 6. And I kind of like the announcer. It was a Gardner or whatever. He's like, you got to get Braylon Allen ahead of steam. And then you saw Wisconsin actually adjust into the pistol more as opposed to being side by side. I thought that was a good call, and it showed and gave me some confidence that Longo was seeing that in real time as well.
And Muppy B says the same thing, pistol formation, right? I thought that was a nice kind of. And the other thing I say is I think there's more here yet. Like Longo, we're 60 minutes into Longo running this Wisconsin offense. I think it's going to get better and better.
You think they'll do any pony package like we hear about the Packers with Jones and Dillon? Because they didn't really do much of that.
No, I didn't see much. I would think so, right? Because the only reason maybe you don't, though, is because you have so many receivers, right?
Sure.
And you get to a point where everybody in the lunch line is trying to eat, and you only have so much casserole, and it's just difficult to kind of feed everybody. But I think there's going to be definitely points in the season, especially with the way Ches looked, that you're going to want to get those two together.
For sure.
How nervous are you tomorrow? Like, what's your nerve scale here, 0 to 10?
Nervous? I wouldn't say I'm horribly nervous. I guess I got faith in the big guys up front, and the running game is kind of like the backstop. But not going to lie, the turnovers with Mordecai after watching the spring game and then the 2 picks, it's got me, I don't want to say, it's got me flustered, I guess. I'm not worried. But we'll see. I think they'll still come up on top. I think they'll edge it out by maybe 28-24 or something like that tomorrow.
Okay.
But, I want to see improvement. That's what I'm looking for tomorrow. I'm not expecting it to be perfect. I know it's kind of going to be the long haul, but sometimes it also makes you wonder when you see Dion hit it out of the park with a 75% roster turnover at Colorado. You're like, God, it couldn't have looked at least a little better against
Right.
Buffalo. And they came out against TCU. You're like, I didn't expect it to look as good as Dion did, but like it couldn't have looked a little better than that. It's a little bit concerning, at least. I don't know how you feel about it, but
No, I don't think he was perfect. And when I
yeah,
talked about it with Rajiv, or was it Justin? Rajiv or Justin? Mordecai's thrown, if you count the spring game, which you don't really need to, but in front of Wisconsin fans, he's thrown like 6 picks at this point.
yeah,
This is a big game for him, but this is also why you go get a veteran, right? So you're going to be on the road. I'm a little more nervous than you are. I've called this one. I feel like
yeah.
Washington State's going to maybe pull it out.
I could see it. I mean, the defense, I was almost more worried about the defense than I was about the offense. The lack of tackling in Latu just totally looked like he was deer in headlights or something in a different realm. He just, like Kadarius Toney last night or something. I don't know.
Give me where are you going to watch the game from? Where are you calling from?
I'm actually in Oregon, Wisconsin, just a little south of Madison, so I'll be watching it here in the crib. So might have a couple buddies over and whatnot. So we'll
Nice,
see
man.
how it goes. Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you for dialing in and for always chatting too, man. I definitely
Yeah,
recognize
dude.
the name. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Come post-game reaction show. Jump in if you're going to be around.
For sure. Cool. Thanks.
Later, Tyler.
See
Let's
ya.
bring Logan in as well. Again, thank you to everybody tuning in. I'm going to put the link back in here. If anybody else wants to dial in, please feel free. I'm still fine-tuning how this is going to kind of look, but it is just the idea is just get people on and talk Badgers and kind of open it up for the community every Friday. So that's the goal of it. All right, let's bring Logan in, another veteran of the show. What's up, my friend?
What's up? I just want to make this short, sweet, and to the point. What we need to do to beat Washington State is pressure their quarterback, make him make mistakes because he's prone to doing that. Get our offense a little more in sync and don't make stupid mistakes. No penalties that can be backbreakers. And then we should be fine.
Are you feeling confident that those things are going to happen, or are you nervous?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about a 5 right now, but if they can hit the ground running and try to get a better head of steam than they did last week, I think they should be okay.
Okay. I feel like I'm more nervous than everybody. I'm at like a 7 or 8, and I think more people are more down.
And you're in a hostile area, but I think they should be fine if they can just stick with the game plan. Mordecai doesn't make mistakes. He makes good decisions, and their defense has to get better at tackling. And Kamari Latu needs to step up big time if he wants to increase his draft stock.
Yep, that is an excellent take. The tackling was atrocious last game. If they're not better on the road, they're not. I mean, they're going to give up 30 plus points if they don't tackle better.
Because you don't usually see them with this bad of a defense, so out of sync with minimal tackles for loss. And I really think Braylon Allen and Ches Malusi, like the last guy said, having a nice little pony package with Ches being the quicker of the two and you have Braylon being the bruiser, I think that could wear down Washington State's front defensive line if you have a 245-pound guy running right at you.
Yeah, I think that's the key, man.
Because if you pound them with the run, you can open up passing lanes.
Well, I agree with you. I think that's exactly where I'm at. You and I are kind of lockstep here. I think they're going to run. They're going to force Washington State down into the box, and they're going to take shots. I think that's the key to winning.
Because
they can do it.
Because didn't they allow Colorado State to pass for like over 350 yards on them?
Yeah, and Colorado State's not that good. Although there's a couple interesting comments here that I'm going to get to as well regarding that game. But Logan, where are you calling from? Where are you watching the game from tomorrow?
North Central Wisconsin, just north of Anigo.
North of where?
Anigo, small town in North Central Wisconsin.
Okay, I love it, man. Dude, thank you for dialing in.
And my score prediction is 45-28 Wisconsin.
Ooh, you think we're going to drop 45 on them?
I think so. If Mordecai doesn't make mistakes.
I love it, man. Thank you for dialing in, my friend.
Yeah. Have a good night.
You too. Let's talk tomorrow.
Yep.
Buckingham, I see you in the queue as well. Just flip your camera on before you come in, just because I don't know where anybody's at, and I can't have somebody coming in the middle of a rave. Commandant Clink says, nice job, Tyler. Yeah, everybody, thank you for dialing in. Again, I'm ironing out the best way to do this kind of live call-in show, but I want to keep doing it every Friday. Let's get into some of these comments, and I wanted to throw this out to the chat as well. Is this the second toughest game of the year? Washington State right now, if you had to call it. I still think, listen, throw away a little bit what Ohio State, Indiana was. Ohio State didn't blow them out. Ohio State, the funny thing with Ohio State is that bar is so high for them that they can open the season with a Big Ten team. And granted, it's Indiana, I get it. But they can open this season with a Big Ten team, beat them by 20, and people are like, the wheels are off. We have an opportunity. They won their opener against a Big Ten team by 20, right? And they gave up 3 points for Pete's sake. And I get it. Like, that's not to Ohio State standard, but that tells you how dominant that team is. So let's get these answers here. If it's the Forrest Aguirre, by the way, says Antigua, it's up by Tomahawk. Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of little towns in Wisconsin I don't know. Bite Me says, no, it is not the second toughest game of the year. He says Illinois or Iowa. You can't say Illinois. Well, Illinois, I don't know, man. I don't think that's the second toughest game of the year. Iowa at Kinnick, I think is. So I'm not buying that Washington State's the second toughest, but it's something I've heard people talk about. I think Iowa at Kinnick, that Iowa anywhere. I don't care if whatever they've done on offense. I don't care that we've revamped our offense and it's going to be more difficult for them. That's always a tough game. Iowa's my second toughest game of the year. Alien Space says Illinois sucks. Justin says, I would have said Illinois before tonight. I wasn't buying Illinois that much before the season anyway, if you remember our preview stuff. CJ Abbott says Iowa will be. 414 says, if it's the second toughest game, this division really stinks. It is. I mean, sorry, I don't think it's the second toughest, but this division does really stink. Let's plant that flag, Locked On Badgers fan. Let's put that flag in the dirt. There's two teams in this division. It's Wisconsin and Iowa. I'm sorry. Minnesota looked terrible. Okay. Their quarterback's not good. And they don't have a seventh-year running back to lean on anymore. Jeff Sims can't throw at Nebraska. They're not beating us. Illinois is not beating us. Northwestern's a train wreck. Like this, Purdue, this is a bad division. It just is. It's us or Iowa. How much money would I have to give you to take the field, right? What kind of odds would I have to give you if I said bet the field to win the West or Wisconsin or Iowa? So Wisconsin or Iowa on one side or the field. What kind of odds would I have to give you to get you on maybe an Illinois or a Nebraska or Purdue? The point being, like, this is a two-horse race. None of those other teams are winning this division. And that could come down to the Iowa game in Kinnick. That would be a great one. Alien Space says Iowa's better than Illinois. I agree. Absolutely. Mitch Ames says Iowa or Minnesota, second toughest. I shouldn't overlook Minnesota because I did it. I've done it a couple years in a row now. I'm watching their quarterback. I can't be. He looks like a less athletic Tanner McAvoy. It's not there. It's just, I don't think it's there. Commandant Clink says Ohio State or Iowa. Bite me, Iowa. Yeah, so I agree with basically everyone in here. Oh, Rashid, why are you not dialing in? Iowa's the second toughest team. Need the defense to step up tomorrow. Rashid has Wisconsin 24-20. Going to be close. Have to believe this will get done. And listen, this is an opportune time. Rashid's not on this show right now, but this is an opportune time to. Anyway, it's a great time to throw the Believe with Rajiv up there. Let's shift back to this game now. We're talking a little bit, getting a little bit ahead of us here. Let's get back to this game. Last thoughts. What's your predictions? Anything that you're really interested in seeing? We've covered the Big Ten West a little bit. I've got some comments up here as well. I did a little sleuthing. I went behind enemy lines a little bit to get some takes from the Washington State fans. So here's a couple of their takes. This one is from 79 Coug. He's talking about the Badgers. He said they're much improved over last year when we met them. He says, are we? ? He's picking 38-37 Cougars. So he's got a high-scoring game, which I do as well. This is from Cougar fan ATA CFD. He says, throw out last year. The fact that we won then is irrelevant. Our offensive line is bad. Yeah, so I know we talked a little bit about their offensive line coming off their Colorado State game. It looked like Colorado State, and this is something Justin talked to. I don't want to take credit for someone else's work or someone else's synopsis firing up here, but it looked like Colorado State was able to get some pressure. And if they can, this might be a get-right game for our defense line. The only caveat, the only thing you got to worry about is Cameron Ward can move pretty well inside the pocket, right? So I said one of my keys to this game, it is pass rush responsibly, right? You know, be a responsible driver. You got to be a responsible pass rusher in this game with Cameron Ward, because if you get too far upfield, he's going to be able to do some damage against you. So you got to be really careful with that. Contain the pocket, compress it, and then you can force him into turnovers because he is a turnover-prone quarterback with some iffy mechanics at times. You just can't let him get out into the flat where he's able to use his legs, extend plays, and then he hits one of those receivers for those back-breaking big plays. That's what he wants to do. So, yeah, the offensive line is a little interesting. Apparently, it's not very good this year for Washington State. This is from How Did This Happen? He says, slow the running game and we win. Don't slow the running game and they win. See, this is funny. This is the script, right, from the last 20 years of Badger football, and opponents are still catching up because what he doesn't realize is that shouldn't be the script this year. Like, you should be able to slow our running game by dropping in the box, and now it's that counterpunch. This is why we brought Longo in. This is why we brought Mordecai. This is why Bryson Green's here. Like, why do you think he booked a ticket to Madison when he could have gone to a lot of places? Like, he did it for games like this when Washington State's going to have to bring a safety down, and he's going to get that deep post. So, yeah, this is a fan that's still just thinking like Wisconsin used. It's the old Wisconsin script. It's not true anymore. How did this happen? We got DC in the queue. Let's bring DC in. Let's see here. What is up, my friend? How are you today?
How are you, Ryan? I got to get rid of the echo here. Give me a second.
Yeah. Thank you for dialing in.
All right.
I see a Minnesota shirt on there.
I do. Yeah, my kid was recruited by a few different teams, so it's I'm wearing one of his shirts. Minnesota State, Mankato. Yeah, it was a Southern Illinois kid offer and Eastern Michigan offer and North Dakota. Ended up blowing up his leg in the second round of the playoffs 10 years ago. Mom and dad then paid for his college after that, but get in line with the rest of the world primarily anyway. Hey, so going into Washington State, I got I tell you what, I think that Wisconsin's running backs are just too strong. That defensive line is really good, especially Stone and Brennan Jackson. They're both dynamite athletes, and they really are going to get a good push up the middle. I don't know if they're necessarily their D tackle, an outside guy, because Brennan Jackson will go outside and inside at a D tackle look. So he'll line up both at Huber and at left tackle, drawing a blank, Nelson. And yep. So he's going to give them fits, but he bumps inside against Huber. Then the outside guy, he's only okay, but they are so strong. I think that I do think our running backs are going to get the better of them. But if we're going to run the ball, we need to go outside in my opinion, first. And the way that they played against Colorado State, they dropped their DBs off the ball more, so they're going to give that underneath a little bit. And so it was much like last week against Buffalo. And I am a little bit worried that Mordecai he'll have the jitters a little bit again. And so a little bit worried that we're going to do the dink and dunk, and we may not be as effective as what we need to run the ball. It's going to be an open game where Wisconsin's going to win. That last gentleman or one of the last guys said 40-something to
45-28 was
yeah, that's awesome, but I can't go there, man. I got to go 27, 24, 28, 24, something in that arena. I just don't think that I think either team's going to put up some points, but not a lot of points. I just think Mordecai and the offense and defense are just a little bit too new for Wisconsin to really drop 40 on them. I hope I'm wrong. So
that was awesome. Let me ping you on a couple of things you said there, because I'm curious on your take on this. You mentioned last game they dropped defensive backs off a little bit, right? I think Dunk could be there. Do you think they can get away with leaving their defensive backs deeper with Braylon Allen and Chez, or do you think Longo will force that issue? Like, is he just going to run until they have to bring them up?
It's going to be interesting because when they played last week against Colorado State, they had two highs for safeties. And you really can't do that. So you're going to have a single high, and you're going to have to drop a safety into the box. So that really, so it's going to be interesting in that we will kind of force them out of playing that drop with a single high safety. So they're going to have to come up on us a little bit, I think, in order to combat Braylon and Ches Malusi running the ball. So I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yeah, you did.
But I think that they're going to have to move up on us a little bit. So
well, that leads into my second question. So this is one of the things I wondered against Buffalo. So Phil Longo talked a little, and Tanner Mordecai did as well after the game. They said, it's kind of the game plan, the swing passes going underneath, and then Buffalo made it difficult to throw deep. There's a part of me that feels like you go out and get a Bryson Green and you can throw deep even if Buffalo's making it difficult on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is the type of game where you have the bigger physical receivers. You're going to have to take some 50-50 shots.
Yeah, agreed. And I tell you what, I mean, I think we should be able to post up with a guy like Bryson Green on these smaller DBs. Mm-hmm. And so I'd like to see that big body used a little bit more. And I know that this offense is predicated on finding some grass. So it's not necessarily pre-assigned patterns that they run. Absolutely. It's pre-assigned patterns based on what the defense gives you. So for instance, sometimes you might have a hook. Sometimes you may have a post, depending on what the DB gives you in this offense. And so I would like to be able to see that our big receivers, especially Bryson Green, Chamiri a little bit, and even I'm drawing a blank with the young man from USC too.
CJ Williams.
Yeah, thank you. I think CJ Williams can use his body as well too, and that's where he's kind of I think he's a possession type guy. So my hope is we're going to see them body up a little bit more this week, because I do think we got an advantage on their DBs in that respect. They got a really stud safety. He's a young sophomore. He's a nice player, but you're going to see him matched up some against our freshman tight end, who needs to actually run his patterns as hard as he can and sell out every time. There's one thing I want to watch for in this game, and we're humans. We only can watch a little bit at a time. But I'm really interested to see how Rucci and our freshman, is it Ashcroft?
Yeah,
is it Ashcroft or Ashcraft?
Ashcraft.
Yeah. Ashcraft, thank you. I'm interested to see how they block. I mean, do they sustain blocks in space? Because Rucci is an inline type tight end with a big body, big muscle guy. And so I know he can body up when he's down in a 3-point and he's within confined space. But out in space, is he truly, really effective as a blocker? Which kind of brings up something interesting. Because I'm an old school guy, in that I'm used to the tight ends, double tights, whatever, with a fullback, and everything's confined, and you're really blocking angles. Your linemen have a little bit more restricted splits, and so it's a little bit more of a phone booth that you're blocking between. Rucci's really effective at doing that, but when he was outside in that spring game, he really had struggles, and I can't remember his power football score last week, but I think it was pretty decent as a blocker, and he was mostly blocking outside. So, but anyway, I'm just kind of interested to see how they do blocking, which brings up one more thought, is that, it's interesting how we see the ratings of wide receivers come, and it's always on how they receive. But now there's so much on how they pass block. How do they block for those bubble screens and stuff like that? Or not pass, but how do they block? And so it'll be interesting to see. I don't hear a lot of scouts and things like that talk about a receiver's blocking ability, but it's so important in this offense for those bubble screens and stuff. So, anyway, interested to see how those tight ends do. But ultimately, I do think that Wisconsin has a better running game. I think our defenses are really a push talent-wise. Their defensive line's a little bit better. I think our DBs are actually a push. Latu's got to tackle.
Yes.
I think our linebackers are better than theirs, but ultimately I would say that the defenses are a push. Offensively, they just don't have our running backs, and they don't have our offensive line. So I do have Wisconsin winning it, but it's not a blowout. So,
by the way, Derek says this man needs to visit the show more. So compliments to you on the analysis.
Thank you,
I
man.
will say, I went back and watched specifically Rucci. He blocked really well in space last week.
He did. Good.
Really, really well. And then you're talking about the receivers blocking. The most interesting one to me, because he's this Will Pauling is feisty. He had a pancake against a cornerback. He just gets after it. Like, listen, he is smaller, but he really gets after it on the edge. So to your point there, block in front of Braylon Allen on the swing pass. Some of that is designed, by the way. Like the blockers release right away and they get it to Allen behind 3 guys.
Mm-hmm.
He was pretty impressive there as well. So, no, man, thank you so much for calling in. That was awesome. It's great analysis and insight.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hey, so let me ask you something real quick, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think that Wisconsin was holding something back last week? Do you think that do you think they were deliberately not going over the top, or what was your assessment there?
My worry is, and somebody put this in the comments better than I kind of articulated it, but sometimes you don't do something because you don't feel comfortable in doing it, right? To me, I don't think the time to hold back is against Buffalo when you're installing a new offense, when you need kind of those reps. And you hit on something earlier. There is a lot of kind of choice and option in these routes. And I kind of wonder if it's not quite all there yet, just from a communication standpoint between the receivers and the quarterback. And that's why those shorter routes are there.
Agreed.
I'm a little worried about it. I'm not going to lie, because it feels like if this was the 3rd year in Longo's system and Mordecai had been here 3 years, maybe you don't need to really put it all out there against Buffalo. But I feel like they need those reps.
Yeah.
And you don't want to find out on the road against Washington State if you can do it or not.
Right. Yeah, good point. Hey, I don't want to say though too, but I'm a Shatek guy. And so
yes.
So hail Cumberland, the great Northwest. So
I love it, man. I take every opportunity to shout out Cumberland, Shatek, all those little towns, Cameron. I love that area of Wisconsin, my friend.
Yeah, it's good talking with you, and for all the Badger fans out there, on Wisconsin, and enjoy it while it's here, fellas and ladies. Enjoy it while it's here.
That's it, my friend. Thank you so much for dialing in, and do it again, please. We'd love to.
Right on. We'll talk. See ya.
All right. See ya. Another Shatek guy. I love it. Myself from Cumberland, obviously the greatest small town in the world, as I've said many, many times. All right, let's get a couple more comments in here. Let's see. That was a really fun one. Let's see. This is from John Case talking about Vakos. I've mentioned Vakos like a huge key, potentially going on the road in a game that has the potential to be close. This could be Nathaniel Vakos' first chance to hit clutch field goals, pressure field goals. John Case says, I was at the game last week. Vakos has a cannon. I'd feel comfortable with him kicking field goals 50 yards in. Beyond 50 is hard to say. Listen, if you can feel comfortable 50 yards in on the college level, that's a win, right? That's a home run. That's a scholarship more than useful, right? So that would be a total win. Again, this is from Diet Snapple 89. We need Bielema back as coach. So this comment came before today's games. Diet Snapple may need to switch to rate. I don't know who Diet Snapple 89 is. That was one of the YouTube comments. Listen, I appreciate the comment. I love the different viewpoints. You may need to switch to regular Snapple. I don't think we don't need Bielema back as a head coach. I'll just say that. And I don't dislike the guy. He did really good things in Wisconsin, but we're fine. Joshua said, as a student at Washington State, Pullman is pretty hyped right now for the game. We don't get to host many teams on this level from out of conference. It's always kind of cool as a Wisconsin fan to get that type of head nod. Washington, this is a big deal at Washington State to get Wisconsin in there. And that speaks to the pedigree and the type of school that Wisconsin is and the national brand that we kind of carry. So yeah, I've heard I would love to be in Pullman. I would love to be at the Palouse, Martin Stadium. I would love to be there for this game because I've heard it's going to be a lot of fun. The fans are pretty fired up for this one. This is from Bo Dragon. If we lose to Washington State, the season is over. Barring a quarterback change, they would be out of the top 25 and take 3 or 4 wins in a row just to get back into the rankings. Bo, I disagree. Though I respect the take, but I just don't think losing in week 2 on the road to a decent team is the end of the season, right? Unless you think this year is going to be a national title, which I don't. It's not a loss in the Big Ten. It's a loss early. It gives you a ton of time to recover. And let's be honest, if you finish 10-2 and you lose to Ohio State and you lose on the road to Washington State, that's fine. It does reduce your margin for error, quite certainly, but I do not think the season will be over. Michael Drew says, why didn't Fickell just flat out keep Leonard for defense coordinator? Actually, I don't think he could have. I don't think Leonard, again, I had a source on this. I had a source that Leonard was staying. I put it on our Discord. At some point in time, a guy that would know told me, hey, Leonard's staying. And I put that in the Discord at the time. I didn't have another source, so I didn't put it on Twitter because I didn't feel incredibly confident. But he was, at least at some point, verbally said, yeah, I'm staying. And then it didn't happen. What I was told is, and take this however you want, it was moving too quickly. So I don't think it was the timing was right. I don't think Leonard was ready for it. And you don't want somebody who's not all in on the coaching staff. So I don't think it was a Fickell decision to not keep Leonard. I just don't think it was going to fit for a myriad of reasons. I would have loved it, though, if it could have worked. I would have loved it. Let's see. This is from Tony Miranda, Washington State fan. Washington State definitely win by a lot more this year. Wisconsin will not beat Washington State through the air. I guarantee you that. Tony Miranda, a confident Cougars fan, jumping in here. I appreciate that. Listen, I don't think this is an easy game. I've got a lot of people that have pushed back a little bit on me here with my prediction and my thought that, Washington State could win this. Washington State could absolutely win this game, y'all. Like, Cameron Ward is a good player. You're going on the road. It's early in the season. Don't be devastated. I guess what I'm trying to say is don't be devastated if this turns out to be a close loss on the road. Now, if we were to go out there and get waxed, which we're not going to do, by the way, I'm just saying if that were to happen, then yeah, feel free to be devastated. But a close loss on the road to Washington State with a solid quarterback, it's not the end of the world. The Scary Alvarez podcast jumping in, I feel humbled. He said, I want this guy on my staff retroactively. Yeah, that was a great guest. I think he's talking about DC. That was a great guest. Tyler Strieber, also a great guest, said DC is awesome. He had a bench press behind him. Yeah, that man meant business. Dan A says Washington State greater than Wisconsin. That's all. I like it. I love fan banter, man. That's part of what makes college football so great. Let's see. 414 Badger says, Bo, you seem like a positive guy. He doesn't. I love Bo Dragan, though. Bo Dragan is part of the fabric of this show. Alien Space, Cam Ward is turnover prone, had 3 fumbles last year. Yes. Cam Ward is turnover prone. And that's why if you compress the pocket, you just can't, again, I keep saying it, and this is the last time I'll say it, I promise. You can't let him escape the pocket. You just compress it around him, and he's going to make mistakes. Because he's not a great pocket passer. That's not something he excels at. Bite Me says, no, not Bielema. No to Bielema. Yeah, I think, listen, Bielema did great things in Wisconsin. Right, he was a very successful coach, parlayed that into a big-time opportunity, and I think he's probably continued to grow as a coach. I didn't mean it like that. Stop it. I meant intellectually. Stop it. But no, we have Luke Fickell. We're fine. Let's keep going here. Alien Space says, I hope we destroy Washington State. Bite Me says, get your predictions in now, boys. I'm going with Badgers 34, Washington State 21. Bookmark this. That'd be great. Like, I just want to survive this week. Let's flip it. Let's flip it. Let's flip this really quick. I've talked a lot about I am not sure we'll win this game, right? But let's flip it and say we win this game. We beat Washington State. Very, very possible, right? We're a favorite. We're a 6-point favorite. So think of the springboard for the rest of the year. If we beat Washington State, we are setting up the dream scenario. Again, every game can be a stumbling block, but you're setting up a potential dream scenario to get Ohio State at home with 2 undefeated teams at night in Madison, Halloween. That could be game day. That's the Luke Fickell Ohio State storyline. That could be a top 10 teams. Like, that could be the most electric we've had Camp Randall since the last time Ohio State came in and we beat them, right? That, I don't want to get too excited, but that's what a win against Washington State could set up. That could be the springboard for what we're talking about here. A bunch of comments here. I apologize. I will not be able to get to all of them. Let's see. Scary Alvarez asks, is Bo Dragan the chat room's designated negative guy? Yeah, I would say so, but yeah, I would say so. I would say this, though. Like, Bo is passionate, right? And he's certainly not the only person who thinks Greg Gard should be on the hot seat. I will say that. Like, he has other people in that bandwagon as well. So he's not the only one there. He's maybe just the most vociferous one. Justin says, still not over Bielema not running John Clay more in the second half of that Rose Bowl, that TCU game. I'm still not over them going 5 wide down. Listen, I know, and people who maybe don't have that photograph of that play in their head or don't, but going 5 wide with John Clay in the backfield to get the 2-point conversion, it's just not Wisconsin. And yeah, it was open. It got batted down by the TCU linebacker. I forget his name, but Zach Bart says 38-21 Wisconsin. I'll take that. Forrest Aguirre. This is a really good point here by Forrest. People forget that the Badgers put up a ton of yards last week. 500 yards in an offense still finding itself against a decent team. Nobody in the Big Ten put up more yards last week than the Badgers. Now, again, people push back and say, well, who'd you play? Buffalo's not bad. Like, they're really not a bad team. Buffalo actually has quite a bit of momentum for that level of football, coming off a bowl win. They've had back-to-back top recruiting classes in the MAC. They have a real coach. That's not a bad team where the Badgers went out and put up 5 bills on them. So this could be an offense that continues to grow and gets pretty explosive by the time we hit that midseason stride. Kathleen Burrows says the Badgers will win. You can take that to the bank. I hope so. Here's the last thing I'll say, and I'll wrap this up here because we're at like 45 minutes, and I apologize for keeping people too long. I could talk about the Badgers all day, but I would rather be wrong about this by far and have the Badgers win, right? So even though I took Washington State, I am hoping our post-game therapy show is full of people trolling me, full of people telling me how ridiculous I am. We'll call it Locked On Liars. That'll be my like moniker for all the bad takes I've had, and we'll continue to have it, right? It'll be Locked On Liars, la 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 la. So I hope I'm wrong. I am not one of those guys that would rather be right and see the Badgers lose. I would much rather be wrong. I would much rather have Cam Ward go 4 of 20 with 7 picks, right? And we blow them off the field. And we have a stress-free therapy show, and we can use that springboard into the rest of the year. So that's what I'm hoping for. And I hope, Kathleen, you are correct on that. Clayton, I'm not going to get that last name. Clayton Serzowski? Clayton C. says, I love when Ryan turns into the Adam Schefter of Badger football. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I do appreciate you dialing in. CJ Abbott says, is a quarterback great if they're turnover prone? No. I don't think so. No. Not at the college level. You can't be great and turnover prone in the same sentence. I don't think. I'm trying to think. There's no quarterback. And obviously, listen, Brett Favre had a ton of turnovers. But no, I don't think you can be great and turnover prone at the same time. Mitch Ames says we outgained them 400 to 250 last year. I don't put a ton of stock into the game last year one way or the other, right? Because the teams are so different. I know Washington State fans have pointed to, we beat them last year. This Wisconsin team is so different. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of players playing prominent roles on this Wisconsin team that weren't involved in that game. Like, I don't know how huge that revenge factor is going to be for, like, Tanner Mordecai doesn't care. Bryson Green doesn't care, right? Certainly some players for sure are going to remember Washington State, doing the jump around on the motion W, ruining the season a little bit. But I just don't think last year's game for either side plays as big of a role as people think, right? It feels like a good narrative. And then when the game starts, it's about X's and O's, players making blocks, making tackles. You're not in the third quarter and Kamoi Latua is like, oh, I really need to run a little bit harder here because last year I missed a tackle against Nakia Watson. I think that's all kind of. And Mitch, by the way, I'm not picking on your take here. Sorry, I went off a tangent. This is not a reflection of Mitch's take. But I think those are narratives that sound good on paper, but don't exist in reality. But all right, let's wrap this up here. I do appreciate everybody tuning in. Connor Johnson, looks like we got a Wazoo fan in there. Tim Olson says, glad our coaching staff doesn't have your negativity. Doggone it, Tim. I'm not negative. I got called toxic the other day for my positivity, right? I am not negative. I will, however, say sometimes it's just instead of getting optimistic Ryan, you get keeping it real Ryan. And keeping it real Ryan thinks this might be a loss. But that doesn't mean I'm negative at all. Maybe I am. I don't know. Anyway, let's go on Wisconsin. Big game tomorrow. Can't wait for it. We're going to do the therapy show afterwards for sure. If you want to watch the game with Rajiv, we got the playback going on. It's a great opportunity. And the Badger Notes guys, we collaborated together. So join the playback. You can watch the game with everybody. Let's get 3 more comments to bring us out of here. Matthew Ram says Ryan is a homer. There we go. Let's see. Mike says Dupree had a good game tonight. I heard Metoyer was flinging it around too. So I'm all about that. Bo Dragon, we always got to throw his comment, fire guard up there, and then we'll finish with Forrest Aguirre on Wisconsin. That's a great way to end it. On Wisconsin, we'll talk to all you tomorrow. Let's go.